That I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to. I'm just quite happy just going into oblivion, so to speak. In a way, a relief that it was the end, because for a couple of years I think I'd been going through the motions, mainly for my father. When it was all over, I felt a massive sigh of relief that it was the end of an era. My dad was the reason I played. Snooker became his passion. He tried to get as good as he could, but he didn't have the talent. So he learnt from the Joe Davis Bible on how to play the game, but he got up to a break of 58. That was his best he ever got. I talked him through that. I talked him through every positional shot of his 58 break. Around the age of 14, I showed great interest in full-size tables and playing the game properly. And he embraced that and tried to help me to become as good as I could possibly be using this book. So that became the Bible. And we didn't know anything about how to play the game properly. All that ever happened was he tried to get my mechanics right, to make me as straight a hitter as I could possibly be. And we had to learn the game together. And then we went on the journey. Not only the journey around the country, with my father waking up at stupid times to go to work, 6 a.m. in the morning, driving a staff bus all the way across London, and then coming back at 6 o'clock at night time and then driving me off to a snooker match. He spent so much time devoted to my career, but it was his passion, so it wasn't like it was hard for him, it was just what we did. And every day was a journey. We had to pinch ourselves in the end. It was just stupid, you know, turn professional, playing my heroes, playing his heroes, and then realising that his boy was arguably better. So his boy became, in a very short space of time, champion of the world. I mean, it must have been astonishing. It was, but I don't know how you thought about it, you know? I remember, I think, last frame in this dressing room, one of these dressing rooms, so he told me, I'm not sad, it's just, so he said he never watched the last frame and, and he sold his soul to the devil so I'd win the last frame.
And that's it, the world snooker champion, 1981, Steve Davis. Congratulations there to the Embassy World Champion Steve Davis from his manager Barry Hare.
Barry's impatient, he can't wait for me to turn professional, he's bullying me to turn professional. My dad's going, oh, I'm not sure he's ready yet, I don't know. Look, next time you've got to strike while the iron's hot, we've got to strike, well, I'm not so sure. And sign this piece of paper on a bus stop in Blackpool, sign this piece of paper. Well, I don't know, and bully, okay, right, sign it. And if I hadn't signed that piece of paper, or we hadn't have been bullied by Barry into going, it's got to be now, it's got to be now. You know, impatience. I'd have never turned professional in 1978, and I wouldn't have been there in 1979 as a pro when Terry won the World Championship, and 2 years later I wouldn't have won the World Championship. So, whilst I owe my father everything, you know, in getting me interested in the game, the significance of Barry Hearn in how he got excited by the game and the fact that we bumped into each other at such a pivotal moment in the history of BBC snooker meant that it was just, you know, right time, right place. I mean, just amazing.
Most of all, I'd like to thank my mum and my dad and Barry and Susan.
All of a sudden I was in demand and he was selling me like a piece of meat to the highest bidder. You know, and I'd sit in the office and he'd be on the phone, yeah, that's lovely, yeah, okay. Yeah, he loves coffee. Oh, I don't really like it. Yeah, he loves it. What brand is it? Yeah, he's £9 grand. He's £9 grand for the day. Yeah, and I go, £9 grand? I said, where do you get that number from? He said, well, I just thought of a number and then trebled it. Yeah, and that's Barry. He's not exaggerating. Most people say, I think of a number and double it. He was treble it immediately.
22nd frame, Steve Davis to break.
in the UK Championship in 1980. I played Alex Higgins in the final. Obviously, a player that was, you know, hot property and vastly talented, but I beat him 16-6. You know, it wasn't even close. That was a massive turning point in all of a sudden my dominance. That became the sort of the start of the golden era.
It's all over.
You may find yourself living in a shack. Beautiful, 147 in another part of the world. And you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. And you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
April 1989, I won the World Championship, and I do apologise, John, if you're listening to this. I beat John, 18-3. I played the best I've ever played. I just felt like I owned it. And then I played Stephen in the UK Championship, and he beat me for the first, you know, in the big event.
And Steve Davis, the world champion, comes forward to shake the hands of young Stephen Hendry.
And then I went into the studio with Stephen, and David Vine sort of asked me a few questions first, and then as a statement, rather than asking me the question, went, well, the end of an era, and turned to Stephen Hendry. And I thought, bloody cheek, like, how dare you? That's like, how can you say that? As it turned out, it was, because I never won the World Championship again. I didn't get in the final again.
My father passed away this year, just before the World Championships. I still played in it. He was with me from the start, so I thought, finish this time round.
Oh. Yeah, I've enjoyed it all, yeah. Yeah, I think I've enjoyed the love, not the love of the people who watch snooker, how much it's meant to them, and how many people come up to you and say, you're the reason I started playing, I'm so pleased I fell in love with snooker, I watched it, and to think that the game you fell in love with, so many other people have got pleasure out of it. Wow, what a life to have done that, to have fallen in love with a game that's your hobby, becomes your profession, you're one of the flag bearers, and that's, I think, all you are, really, you know. And then the next minute, people are calling you a legend is mind-blowing. But the love for snooker worldwide is astonishing. And it's not my game, right? It's not my game, it's just, but it's so it's a great game, you know? Was that father's son competition?
Yeah.
Oh, so much for smudging the mascara. Steve, thanks very much for that. And so much for Barry Hearn's Romford Robot. Who knew? What did that lap of honour mean to you in the Crucible a couple of weeks ago, Steve?
That was brilliant. You know, I didn't want to do it, but well, I'm so pleased I did, you know, and it was just fantastic. And that bit about the love for snooker, you know, the fans who come here, they've supported this game where, over the years, when the media sometimes want to... It's an easy hit sometimes to criticise because it's slow sometimes and everything. And it's just like, all the fans who watch snooker, they know how entertaining it is. And every year, it gives millions of people around the world now so much pleasure. So to be part of it, marvellous.
Barry, I know he's your mate, but how surprised at how widespread and deep the reaction has been to him hanging up the key.
I mean, it's difficult, you know, that's the first time I've seen that clip, and it's quite emotional, and it's so unnatural for Davis to do what he did, because it's just not him. He's not a flash bloke that goes out and milks the crowd. It's an honour. It's an honour to have known him, and an honour to have watched his career, and we would none of us be here without this fella.
You know, I was going to say, you clearly bullied him to sign the contract.
Yeah.
He owes you, but how much do you owe him?
It's not in the same league. I mean, I was useful for a few years. When he was quiet and bashful, he needed someone to bang doors down, fight his corner, watch his back, and I was good at that. But I've learned more from this man in the subsequent 30-odd years, because we've been together 40 years. It seems like that song coming on, it don't seem a day too long. But all great things come to an end, but our friendship doesn't, and his involvement with snooker doesn't, even though not as a player, as a worldwide ambassador, I can't have a better flag bearer than Steve. And the people, the reaction he got, the love you felt in the room was something that I have never experienced. I mean, it's a terrific statement on what this man's done. And for me personally, you know, I don't want to get him big-headed. I wouldn't be here without him. And I wouldn't want to be here without him.
That's good to hear. There are one or two people that you've bashed up at the table who want to have their say, and one of them is John Parrott. You had the misfortune to know and indeed play this man when he was in his absolute pomp. 1989 comes to mind in the final here, John.
Yeah, absolutely, Hazel. I got an absolute thumping. He was at the top of his game. I think he beat you in the semi-final as well the same year, so you were on the end of it. And I got it in the final. And actually, I was involved two of the worst, well, certainly the worst match I ever had in my life was that one. But my best match was 2 years later, beating him in the semi-final 16-10, which he never remembers, by the way. That was the best match I ever played. So he's had a massive part. And the big thing about all the rest of it, after playing him, I count him as one of my best friends in the world. He's a great lad.
Stephen, how influential was he on your career, and how significant was that end of an era comment from David Vine? Did it feel like the end of an era in that victory against him at that time?
Yeah, I remember the first major tournament I beat Stephen, and that was like it was like a defining moment in my career. It's probably been one of the most influential and inspirational figures in my career. I wanted to be the best. He was the best, and if that was going to happen, I had to not copy him, but just look at him and see what I had to do to be the best.
John, what did you discover about Steve, and what changed for you about Steve when you started your parallel careers as broadcasters? Did you really know him all that well until this point 15 years ago?
Well, I actually thought for many years he was only programmed to speak at press conferences when he won. You know, most of the players didn't see him. He had a sort of an aloof countenance when he turned up. It was all part of the aura and the mystique about him for being a winning machine. But then when we started working together, you get to know him a lot better. And honestly, the Steve Davis of now and then is completely different. And we got on famously well. Well, commonly known in the trade as the Citrus Twins. That's because we're actually like a couple of lemons when we stand in front of the camera. But we're really good pals together, and I enjoy his company.
Guys, thanks very much. I'm not going to spare his blushes here, because I'm going to reel out some on the list of achievements. 6-time world champ, 6-time UK champ, 3 Masters, a record 30 appearances at the Crucible, former sports personality of the year, and in the top 3 on a number of occasions too. MBE, OBE, Rear of the Year, that was the most important one. 28 world ranking titles and 81 wins. Oh yes, and snooker's official first maximum break. He's kind of done his bit, Barry.
He's entitled to a couple of weeks off, that's for sure. But, you know, he's not lost. And I keep saying this, you know, I'm going to be on him all the time. You know, the DJ career is fine, but his original love of snooker, he has a big role to play around the world for us. You know, showing people, inspiring people at all ages how good this game is and how good you've got to be and the price you've got to pay to excel at his chosen sport. So you're going to see a lot more of Mr. Davis. Trust me, because, you know, I can't lose a client after 40 years. I mean, it's just not fair.
Well, he's hardly retired. He's had to go to work for us.
Quite right, too.
Speaking of going to work, a fantastic announcement earlier today, 2027. It will be staying, this great championship, in Sheffield. And you saw the reaction, you heard the reaction from the crowd.
Unbelievable. And I'm just so happy to actually get it out and get it done, because I'm getting tired of people asking me, are you going to take this to China? You know, the answer is not, of course. And, you know, I think this whole tournament has been excellent, but the extension of the BBC contract, coupled with 10 years, you know, I'm made up. This sport is really back to where it deserves to be. It's been a lot of hard work by a lot of people, and the players have got to take an enormous amount of credit, as